And welcome. After 15 minutes, our timer, who this evening is Paul, will give you a warning before the 20-minute limit. So please go ahead. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Matt. I'm a gratefully recovering food addict and relapse survivor. Absence today by the grace of my higher power and the support of the fellowship. This will be recorded, so I'm going to take a second to ask my higher power to just give me some some intuitive thinking and just help me out here so I can be of service to my fellows. Thank you. I definitely qualify to be speaking tonight. I recently celebrated, actually December 8th, I celebrated 5 years from abstinence from flour, sugar, binge foods, and I'm not a normal eater, so don't get the wrong idea. I really need to come to these meetings to remind myself that I'm not a normal eater, that's kind of what I do here. So that's what we do is come to meetings to remind myself how sick and suffering I was, and take it one day at a time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what led me into OA, but I like to as I mentioned, identify as a relapse survivor. I want to definitely touch on that as a theme. So I usually start my story somewhere in the beginning of high school. I guess I can say as before high school, I was always overweight. Never like enough where it bothered me and enough where I was considered obese on the BMI chart, but never. I guess people would say, oh, you wear it well and all that stuff. So. Anyways, I always, food was definitely, a favorite, eating was definitely a favorite activity of mine when I was younger, and I would always, ask for seconds and thirds and, so that was definitely a thing, but, it didn't really start to become problematic until I was in high school. Just to put it in perspective, as a freshman, I was about 200 pounds and not even 5 feet. My highest weight was in, I believe, 2000 and it was like 2010. It was at 216, and I'm right where around 175 now, maintaining that weight loss. So I'm I never really I didn't lose a ton of weight. That's not really part of my story, but I definitely went from going fat to thin, and that's. It's a nice thing. Oh man, it's been a long day. This is gonna. I don't know if I got to really rely on HP here to sort of help me out. This is past my bedtime. So, anyways, I mentioned high school was kind of an area was sort of the start of my real compulsive eating. I went on as a sophomore in high school, I was skipping lunch, so restricting and then always overeating later on at night. I'm sure almost everybody in the room, or most, or a lot, can identify with the night eating, and then the restricting and then the overeating later. I learned the connection between those things, a long time ago, and I still kept eating less, and then no, I'll be fine. I'm not going to eat. I'm not hungry. Today I eat. Today missing a meal is just as compulsive as overeating. So I went to college, and it was, as far as my food addiction goes, it was a disaster. I gained like 25 pounds my freshman year of college. No surprises. The buffet style. My first dorm was actually in the same building as the dining hall. Money on my school account could be used at the vending machines. And, I just had a field day, with all of those things, alcohol, weed. I mean, it was, so my disease definitely took off, in college. So I like to share, I mentioned I'm not a normal eater, and I'd like to share a little bit about that. I've over the years I've tried, I really should keep a list, but I'll do my best to rattle them off here. Dietitians, nutritionists, hypnotists, dieting pills, relocation, meditation tapes, partial day programs, therapy, all those crazy weight loss schemes. Anyways, I've literally, locking my, trying to have somebody lock me in my room, so I wouldn't go out and binge, crazy stuff that never worked. So anyways, when I was in college, I tried, a few of those things happened, where I realized that I really needed help. I made this big to-do to get into a different dorm, because the dorm I had had a vending machine. And the minute I got it approved, I think it was that night or 2 nights earlier or 2 nights later, I ended up going right back to that dorm, it wasn't on the other side of campus, but it was a walk to go to the vending machine in that dorm, right? That was, something like that isn't going to stop my addiction. I locked my keys in my mailbox. That was across campus, and that also did not stop me from in the middle of the night when the cravings hit, going to the Sunoco and binging. By the way, I would say at that time in college, my binges were probably $11, maybe $13 at convenience stores. In 2015, on my last binge, I was spending probably $35, $40 at grocery stores, eating frozen stuff at 6:45 in the morning in my car outside the grocery store. So my disease definitely progressed, to say the least. I mentioned, I tried, so I realized I was having issues at school because of the food. I took a medical leave, and that's when I used a lot of those. I saw a hypnotist. That's when I was in this sort of partial day program. You could say I gained a little momentum. I ended up going back to school. Maybe for 3 weeks, everything was fine. And then, I lost the momentum. And now I was at risk of taking a second medical leave, and I would not have finished. There's no way I would have finished my associate's degree if that happened. I wouldn't have gone on to my bachelor's. And I say this not as status and as pride. I say this as a reminder for all the things that this program gave me. Literally, my food addiction would have kept me from returning to school, and I wouldn't have been on to finish grad school. None of those things would have happened. I'm very confident saying that. So I found program, November 2011, I went to my first meeting, which was in Brattleboro, Vermont. I got a sponsor, and I got abstinent very quickly. I had it for about a year, and I wasn't actively working the steps. I was, doing some step work, some questions and, some exercises that my sponsor would have given me. But, it was tough because I was in college, and I was, really, I was getting to maybe 1 or 2 meetings a week. But anyway, so I lost that abstinence. That was my first relapse when I was actually outside the country. I was actually in the Middle East, and I ended up, it was just like old times. The mental twist, leading to that first bite, and then I, gained a good amount of weight and ended up getting another sponsor. I was just using a new sponsor at that time. That was when I was able to crack open the Big Book. I started doing some readings from the Big Book, and then I gained that abstinence back for about a year and a half. So a few things happened right before I lost my abstinence for my second time. The first thing was I had said to myself that, I was having this issue over the summer where I'd wake up early and want to eat breakfast, but not breakfast, because I would wake up at 3 a.m. and say, I want to eat breakfast. I said to my sponsor, that's going to be a break of abstinence if I do that, I do any of that shit again. And, anyways, I remember saying that. And then I remember literally 2 weeks later when I was in August, when I was back at school for in my dorm, just getting settled. I sure enough woke up at like 2:30, 3 in the morning, and I had these crazy thoughts. And it was so it was such a fast. It was literally like I had this thought of, oh, I should eat my breakfast. I ate my breakfast. It was abstinent, mind you. It was my abstinent meals, or my abstinent meal. And then I ended up just, the self-defeating, thoughts just kind of kicked in. I blew it, and I'm no good. What's the use? I need to get my money's worth, right? Milk it for all it's worth. I know a lot of us have been there if binging is any part of your story. I have something to say about that. Those few times that I was able to, if I did break my abstinence, a slip doesn't have to be a slide. I can screw up and eat compulsively, but I don't need to go all out and reintroduce the flour and the sugar, because then it was that which is exactly what happened. I mentioned that I was in my dorm room. So at 2:30, I ate that abstinent breakfast, which was a break of abstinence, but it was abstinent foods. And then I basically was just off to the Cumberland Farms and went into the worst relapse of my entire life. So anyways, the few times I was able to minimize my binges, I felt so empowered the next day. There were also fewer calories to count the next day. It doesn't, that all or nothing thinking, I think, can be, it's a compelling argument we make for ourselves. Like, well, this is probably, I have the thinking, who knows when I'm going to get a chance again, since I'm going to get abstinent tomorrow, I might as well go crazy tonight. And, it just multiplied the pain. And by the way, pain was not a sufficient motivator for me, clearly, as you can tell, because in that relapse, you can tell by my next statement, I became suicidal. I didn't have a plan. I didn't really have any intentionality, but I definitely was feeling pretty hopeless. This was, some of the stuff that was going on then was really, really troubling. My mom, I was in college at the time. My mom gave me, my mom was, God bless my mom, she would do anything for me, or my sister. And anyway, she put me in like a hotel. It was like a Days Inn. While we were still paying, I mean, of course, I'm still paying off my loan debts. But the point is, not for undergrad though, for grad school, to be honest here. So, but anyways, that's not the point. The point is, I went into this Days Inn instead of being on campus, because I was convinced that it was my loud roommates and the loud dorm that was causing me to binge, because I was waking up. And literally, I kid you not, like the first night, I hit the vending machines in the Days Inn, and then I did it for those 3-4 nights, and then the guilt just took over. I finally said to my mom, like, this is a complete waste of money. It's not, I'll just go back to, my dorm at school. And, man, I remember there was this fridge right on the floor that I was on. And I can't tell you how many times I went in there, binged on what I saw, and then went to the grocery store with that exact container, because God, it'd be so, I'd be so ashamed if, they found out that it was me, or if they saw, like, did somebody eat this and then replace it with something that's similar, but not the thing I had. And anyways, so I would go into the market paranoid, holding and I must have eaten the replacement one I got 4 or 5 times. I don't know if this food is allowed. I mean, this is a food program. So I'm gonna say, I mean, it was frosting, but the point was I literally replaced it 5 times and ate the replacement that I had 5 times. Complete insanity. So a few things. There's a few other things I want to mention about that last relapse. I mentioned sort of the mental twist. This is the crux of the problem, as the big book says. It's the twofold nature of the physical allergy and then the mental twist. But I think that it's really the mental twist that scares me more. Those mental blank spots that lead to that first binge. My alcoholic foods aren't a part. I mean, they're out of my diet. But it's really my thinking that is just so crazy. I really need to be mindful of that. Like I said, continue to come to meetings and qualify and remember that I'm, just because I'm a recovered food addict. I mean, that's, contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition one day at a time. It's not, food is, I'm sure we can all say, I mean, it's so powerful. I mean, it just doesn't take much. And then, I can, go right back to where I was. So, anyways, that's an important thing for me to just kind of, 1 second, just kind of collect my thoughts here. So, just take a sip of water. So basically, I ended up, I mentioned that I was a relapse survivor, so something had to change, right? So 2 things changed. The first thing that changed was I went to, I was involved in a closed step study in AWOL. I can't imagine that's just me who had the same experience in AWOL. There's something that happens I think, well, I know it happened for me, but I think it does for others too. You just have, it's a different commitment. It's a different level of commitment. You can go to step study meetings and, you can work with a step study sponsor, but being involved in that group that had very strict boundaries was extremely important to me getting abstinent again. Once I got, once I completed the first one, I did a second. And anyways, if you're suffering right now, if you're in relapse, a few things you want to look out for. One is it's gonna feel pretty hopeless, and you're not gonna be able to, see an end, which is part of what's so scary about it. I mean, that's what it was for me, and people have told me, it just feels like you're never getting out of it. But again, once you get abstinence back, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it gets easier. You get momentum, and you can start to sort of put together days, and then it gets easier. I still have my battles, but
Matt, you got 5 more minutes.
Great, thank you. But food is is not the issue in my life right now. My spirituality is the thing that I need to continuously work on. So anyways, I told you, I don't know, I may not have mentioned this, but there were 2 things that changed. One was I joined that closed step study. And then I also added a 4th meal to my meal plan. I was a 3 meals a day, nothing in between guy. My sponsor said that I was a nighttime eater and I needed to add a 4th meal. It's a metabolic meal, a 4th meal, whatever you want to call it. It's a little bit of protein, a little bit of grain or starch, and fruit. And you know what? Physically, there's no way in heck I could possibly be hungry after 4 meals in the day. And also psychologically, if I need to go and have dinner at 5 p.m. at a social outing, it's a scary thought to go until the next day without eating food, right, with breakfast. So the fact that I have that 4th meal is extremely important. Was extremely important for me. And now, that I have sort of the momentum with my abstinence, it's probably less important, but still it's very useful. So yeah, I mean, a few things I'd like to say just sort of about relapse. I mentioned one of those is that, just because you can't see it doesn't mean, you can get there. There's definitely, there is a way out of relapse. And I can't tell you how many times I couldn't get abstinent after that second relapse. And I would come to meetings and hear people say the exact words that I'm saying now. And I wanted to literally just smack them across the face and say, you don't know. I do know. I know how bad it was, and I know how hopeless it felt. But I'm here to say that I got abstinent again. And today I'm actively, I've been through the steps. I did the steps twice in a closed step study process, like I mentioned, but I'm also now, I just, maybe 3 months ago, finished my making my amends. So I'm taking a sponsee through the steps. My spirituality is, I honestly, I mentioned I love being thin, but, my spirituality is the most important thing for me. And aligning my will with my higher powers. And I do that, it's pretty simple. If I'm doing what I think is the right thing, then I'm doing my higher powers will. It's so easy to get off target. I'm sure many of us can relate. I'm also a perfectionist, so if I get a little bit off target, I'm like, no, I tend to, it's my thinking that really gets in the way for me. So, but the days that I am able to literally just take my will out of the equation, and relieve myself from the bondage of myself. You know, that's when I'm feeling the best. It just, you know, being of service, you know, and just being a good person, being a good husband. You know, those are, I mean, that's really the stuff that, you know, feels the best. You know, so my spirit is, you know, it definitely needs some work, but, you know, I do my inventory at night. You know, I read the On Awakening prayer in the morning. You know, I do the gig. I always feel like there's more I should be doing, but that's, again, sort of my, you know, perfectionism. And a few other things that I use that are really useful. I do gratitude lists a lot. These are very effective, man. I'm sure many of you have noticed. You know, you don't have to come up with 5 or 10 things on a gratitude list. For me, I come up with like one thing, and you know what? That switches the mindset. And you know, I go from self-pity to, you know, looking at something in a more positive way, and then I'll come up with 4 or 5. But you know, I don't. You know, it's not, if I'm in a pissy mood, I'm not going to say like, oh, I need to, like, you know, tell myself that everything's great and I need to come up with like a huge gratitude. It's like, no, like I need to just change, you know, just switch, you know, change it a little bit. And after that one, you know, thing that I'm grateful for, it really does rewire the brain. I use an app that's really great. I'll put the name of it in the chat. It's called My Spiritual Toolkit. It's a great way to just track your, you know, your nightly inventories. You can do spot check inventories in it, track your abstinence date. You can email it to your sponsor or whoever after, you know, there's a, you know, a feature in there to do that. So that's really cool. Let's see. How am I doing in time? What do I have, like 1 or 2 minutes?
Time's up.
That's time. Okay. So I'll just kind of close by saying, you know, if you're struggling, keep hanging in. And you know, it's, you know, this program, you know, can save your life. So thank you.
Hey, thank you.